This podcast is brought to you by New Life Ministries.
Welcome to the Every Man's Battle podcast. I'm your host, JJ West. On this podcast, you will hear honest conversation and encouragement for living a life of sexual integrity. Let's get to today's episode. Welcome back to the Every Man's Battle podcast. I'm JJ West. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in the Orlando area. I also get to serve as the speaker at the Every Man's Battle Intensive that we do about every 6 weeks somewhere in the country. And I'm joined today by Doug Barnes.
Hi, JJ. It's a privilege, really a privilege to be here. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in the Dallas area. I've been here a long time. I've been around the Every Man's Battle Intensive a long time, and I facilitate groups month to month to month. And it is, again, just an honor for me to be able to do that. So what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about fighting the battle in full-time ministry. Is it any different to fight the battle in full-time ministry versus having some secular job? Is it any different when it comes to not only fighting the battle, but then also living it out, living in integrity? Does it look any different between those two groups? I would say yes, there are some significant differences that we need to talk about. So we're going to try and talk about those today. And hopefully have a roadmap for if you are in full-time ministry. And there's a way to not only fight this battle, but to invite authentic community and intimacy. That's going to be the key. So thanks for joining us today. Hope that this is helpful to you. If you're not in full-time ministry, I would invite you to still listen because you probably know somebody who is. You probably know somebody who, maybe it's your pastor or your student pastor at your church or the missionary that you support overseas. And so I would invite you to do two things. One, pray for them across the specific points that we're going to raise today. But two, maybe you pass the episode on to them. Hey, I listened to this. I know you're in full-time ministry. This might be helpful to you. So just invite you to do that as well. For those who are not in full-time ministry, we're also speaking to you too. So, man, I grew up hearing the stories, the news on TV regularly of pastors, televangelists, people in ministry who'd fallen. They had fallen heroically. They were caught with prostitutes, affair partners, Jim Bakker, Jimmy Swaggart. Most recently, in my world, Ravi Zacharias, Joshua Harris. Like there's, these kind of celebrity Christians, if you will, who were caught in some sexually explicit behavior that brought their ministry down. Some of it happened while they were still alive and still practicing, still in full-time ministry. Some of these stories came out after their death. But it leaves us with this question, like, why? These are the guys who are leading. These are the guys who are supposed to be setting the standards, setting the model, and yet they can't get it together. They're falling apart. What gives? So, Doug, let me start there. Is there something different that guys who are in full-time ministry face that, in terms of the battle for sexual integrity, that other guys don't?
Yes, that's a great question. From our human perspective, no, we're all human. We all face the temptations. We all face the flesh. We all face, the temptations that come right at us. There's the lions and the crocodiles, right? I mean, when we talk about a video that we all know. And so some of those things we see coming, some of those things we don't. And we also know that the other point is that we also know that we live in a world that has those leaders under a microscope. And so there are bigger targets on their back. Yes, they're called to something greater, and I'm all for that. And there's a bigger target on them because of that, just by definition of what they're doing, who they are. And so we have some heroes like the Billy Grahams of the world. Okay, so there are some who see exactly what we're going to talk about today and take special precautions. And that's great. but some of them don't. And this leads us to that place of either being exposed, getting caught, the lies coming to fruition, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
but they have a tendency to come out over time.
Yeah. And to your point, yeah, the ones who fall are the ones that make the headlines, whether it's nationally, these
Totally.
well-known people in ministry or the local pastor. It's the ones that fall that make the headlines. What we don't hear about are the thousands and thousands of pastors, missionaries, um, open air preachers who are taking the precautions and faithfully walking out a life of integrity. But
Right.
the truth is that there is a target on their backs. The enemy
Absolutely.
wants to
Absolutely.
discredit those who are proclaiming the truth, those who are leading the sheep, right? The enemy wants to take down the shepherds in order to have the highest impact, highest value in terms of the attack. So they are under
Right.
a microscope, without a doubt.
Right.
And they're held to a higher standard. James chapter 3:1 says that, right? That it you should really consider carefully whether you want a position of a leader, of a teacher, because you are held to a higher standard. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
it reminds me when I was getting ready to go to seminary, the student pastor of the church that I was attending, and was sending me and my roommate to seminary. He sat us down and he goes, "Hey guys, just so you know, everybody wants to sleep with the pastor." I was like, "What? What are you saying to me?" Like, first of all, so as you know, for those of you who don't know my story, you can go back and listen to my story, but that was never part of my story. No one ever wanted to sleep with me. I wanted to sleep with people. I wanted to be sexually active in a lot of different ways, but I was not what people were looking for. Okay. So this idea of ever being someone that everybody wanted to sleep with, quote unquote, that was completely foreign to me. And so, but what I found as I served in missions, student missions, as I served on church staffs, different places, is that people who are in ministry, the reason why there's this theme or this motif or this idea that everybody wants to sleep with the pastor is because there is a high level of intimacy that's built when you are
Mm-hmm.
spiritually caring for someone, when you are taking the time to hear about their lives, when you're praying with and for them. You're also showing up in the darkest hours of their lives, right? You're available and showing up to minister to them, to care for them. You're at the hospital when someone's sick. You're the one they call when the marriage is going south or when the kid has run away or whatever, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so you
Right.
you have this high level of intimacy that is built because of the role that you
Mm-hmm.
serve in their lives. And it's easy for us to mistake that intimacy that's built because of the spiritual care as something romantic, as
Right.
something sexual. We misinterpret that data, and then we start to think about, oh, I should have one-on-one counseling with this person. I should just call on them to see because they told me how frustrated they are with their husband who works too many hours and doesn't have time for her. Let me call and just see how she's doing today, right? We start to make these concessions. So there is a spiritual intimacy simply because of the role, and then, as I said before, the enemy is trying to take those out who are in leadership, and so you have a bigger target. So you're going to have more opportunities. It's not different
Sure.
in kind, but there's more opportunities simply because, yeah, the enemy wants to take you out, right?
And the leader is looked up to.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
want to say on a pedestal because that's a little too dramatic, but a lot of times in a lot of churches we have a tendency as a I would say a culture or as a society, and again I use this word really softly, we idolize, we make them larger than life.
right.
And when I start believing then that I'm larger than life, when I start to believe that lie, where really I'm just a guy. I'm just another soul searching to be Christ-like and searching to have my character, development. But I can if I have enough people speaking that into me, sometimes it's hard because it's really subtle. It's a really subtle, what's that phrase? Slow fade, right? It's a real subtle change in how I interact to lead, and then I interact to come alongside.
Yeah. And because we do kind of hold people in ministry in higher regard, we can feel safer around them to let our guard down. I can trust this person. They're the leader. They're the shepherd. I don't have to, be on guard around them and what I wear and what I say and how close we sit and blah, 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 because that person feels safe. And so there can end up being where I'm actually taking advantage of the fact that they feel safe with me because of my role. Right.
Right. I mean, I remember as a youth, our youth director having that safety where I could say anything and they listened, and there was a trust there, and there was nothing inappropriate, but you knew they cared. And that's a great trait. That's a great trait, right? For a leader in any kind of ministry, that's a great trait to have. If I can hold that boundary of, okay, I'm the minister, the pastor, the youth leader, the Sunday school leader, whatever it is, I'm that person, and this person is coming to me, as you said, maybe in trouble, maybe hurting, maybe in some kind of pain, something has happened, and they need some care.
Yeah.
And how do I take that role on as just that person of care and not to misuse it, as we sometimes do, for our own gain?
Yeah. So to that point, it's really important for us to have people that we're talking to about what the process is like for us. And so in counseling circles, we have to talk about our own countertransference, right? Like what are the emotions that are being brought up in me because of my interaction with this client? I work with I'm in a group practice. There's like 8 of us in the office. And so if I'm experiencing some attraction to a client, I have other people that I can go to and say, hey, I need to process this with you. I'm experiencing some countertransference. Here's what's happened. And I can keep it in the light. That's good. That's healthy practice.
Yes.
For a lot of people in ministry, they feel like they don't have anyone they can talk to when they start to have attraction toward a parishioner. Oh,
I know. We hear that in our offices, right? We hear that at E&B, but yeah.
They feel like they're if I say anything about this, if I tell the truth about this, it's going to cost me my job.
Right.
And so they have little to no community support in their lives, and they're trying to fight this battle all by themselves.
Right. Especially those who are acting out in other ways. They really don't have anyone to go to, and it becomes this dark cloud that follows them. And I think that's one of the great points of our intensive, is that it gives them a place of safety and protection and confidentiality to get that out if they don't have that anywhere else. And sometimes even if they do have it somewhere else, there's wow, I've never shared this with anybody outside my 2 pastor friends from college or whatever. I'm just making it up. But it gives them a safe space.
And sometimes not at the level, right? So when they come to the intensive, so all of you who are in full-time ministry, if you haven't already, come to the intensive, because it's the safest place for you to be authentically you, for you to finally be able to tell the truth of what's happening with no risk to your job, no risk to your reputation. But you have to have that support. You have to have that community in your life. It goes against, I think back to very first episode that we released, the lies we tell ourselves. And one of the lies is, I got this. This. I can handle this. I can do this. And I would argue that for those in full-time ministry, we might have that at a little bit higher level, because, well, I'm a teacher. I know this. I know what the Bible says. I know the Bible teaches to abstain from sexual immorality. I know all the verses, and so I can handle this.
Right.
You know. So if you haven't, go back and listen to that episode to be reminded that you can't do this alone. You need to have that community. Yeah. So again, if you don't have that already in your life, you've got to develop that. You've got to find that. And if it's not safe, you may be in a church where, in fact, your job is on the line. If you were honest about your temptations toward pornography, masturbation, a attraction to a parishioner, then you need to find a safe place to be honest about what's going on.
Right.
So you got to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So by the way, I don't know if we've mentioned it yet today. We need to mention it today. We need to mention it often, that if you are a listener to the Every Man's Battle podcast, you actually get a discount on the registration fee. We've actually bumped it up. It's now $100 discount. Woohoo! $100 off your registration fee. All you have to do is put in the code. This is for actually everybody. For everybody.
Oh,
if you're a listener to the podcast, you put in EMB pod into the coupon code, and you get $100 off your registration fee.
Very cool.
Why do we do that? Because we believe in how God uses the intensive, Every Man's Battle intensive, and the follow-up care, the Sustained Victory follow-up care, to set men free. Those in ministry, those not in ministry, to set men free. So we want to encourage you, especially those in ministry, because we know that that's a safe place for you to have community. And you need that.
Y'all have done me an excellent service through this referral network of counselors.
For over 35 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I found a counselor through New Life Ministries, and it's just been outstanding.
If you need a counselor, whether in person or virtual, New Life can help. We have a nationwide network of licensed Christian counselors. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
To get someone that's competent, that's good at what they do, it's been like day and night compared to what I've had before.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Let's talk then about practical ways to walk in integrity. Especially if you're in full-time ministry, how do we walk this out? How do I live a life of integrity? I think about, there's a Proverbs chapter 5. There's this whole litany of things that Solomon is saying to his son about walking in integrity. And he starts off by talking about, in verse 5, he talks about how the lips of the adulteress are flattering, and they offer sweet words, inviting words, but it starts off with sweetness and it ends in bitterness. It starts off with flattery and it ends in condemnation.
Right.
And so those flattering words find a hook in us most often when we are feeling insignificant, incompetent, impotent, most often when we are dwelling on how frustrated we are with our spouse, when we're dwelling on how frustrated we are with our congregation, dwelling on how irritated we are with the vestry or who fill in the blank, right? When we're dwelling on those things, man, the kind, flattering words, whether that's coming from an actual person, like a parishioner who thinks you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, or it's coming through the pages and videos of pornography or the strip club, the massage parlor, the whatever, it finds a hook in us most often when we're not addressing those wounds. So we want to pay attention to those wounds. We want to pay attention to, if it starts to find a hook in us, man, am I being honest about that? Who am I telling? Right. Yeah. Okay. So then he goes on to say, you want to cut a path. This is in verse 8. You want to cut a path as far away from her door as you possibly can, right? Don't walk near her door. Don't go into that section of town. Go as far away as possible, which most of us, what we've done is said, let me see how close I can get without tripping, without falling into the crevasse, right? I think I can get a little closer. I think I can get a little closer. Oops. Oh, okay. All right. Next time I won't get that close. I'll just get to here, right? No, the instruction of Scripture is, man, you want to go as far away as possible. So those who are in ministry, examine your life. Where are the places where you are conceding ground? What are the concessions that you've made? It's okay if I blank, because I'm not going to fall into that sin. It's okay for me to get this close, right? What are the concessions that you've made, right?
And then, you've talked about one-on-one, right? You've talked about, hey, we're meeting one-on-one. Well, it won't hurt this one time. I'm usually meet with both of them as a couple, but she called me separately or he called me separately, whatever. And I'm meeting one-on-one. And so it'll be okay this one time. And then that one time leads to 2 times. And then as you stated before, now it leads to, well, let me just shoot a text to make sure, just to see how they're doing. I'll text her or whatever, right? And so we get closer and closer to that edge without, again, it's subtle because we think in our heart, hey, I'm being altruistic here. I'm really caring about them. Yet the wound is getting open a little bit more and a little bit more, and I'm feeding into that. And sometimes I don't see how far that goes.
The other question we want to ask is, am I justifying my behavior? I do all these good things for God, for the church, for the mission, for the whatever. I do all these good things. God's going to overlook this concession. God's going to
What's the motivation of my heart, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Verse 12 and 13 in Proverbs 5, Solomon says that as if you've stayed long enough with the adulteress, you start to realize, you go, oh man, I have rejected discipline. I have hated correction. I've pushed it away from me, right? And so then the opposite of that is, where do I need to embrace discipline and invite correction, right? And that takes us back to.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that takes us back to that examination of, I've got to be in community in order to invite correction, right?
Right.
That's what you were going to say. Right. Great minds. So I can't do that alone.
If we're isolated, right? But if I'm isolated and I think I got this, then I'm most likely not. I don't have that available to me, even though I'm saying I need to talk to someone. I need to, who is there that's safe enough for me. And you and I hear this a lot. There's so many in ministry that just don't have, or they don't trust those that are within earshot of them, or those that they know, to really, even if there's nothing going on, just to talk through this in a process sort of way. Not like something bad will happen, but just I need to get this off my chest, like you were talking about with your group of therapists in your practice. And it's hard.
Absolutely.
It's hard to do.
When we can bring things into the light, it breaks that tractor beam hold that it has on us. But when it's still kept in secret, man, it's like, oh, I can't. I'm gonna try to pull away, but it just sucks us in, right? So if I have community, I can bring it into the light. So
That's great.
Okay, so Solomon closes the proverb, Proverbs 5, who closes the proverb in verse 15. He starts to talk about that we should be satisfied with the wife of our youth. And so there's this idea of, one of the ways that I protect my heart from being drawn away into sexual brokenness is by cultivating gratitude, is by practicing gratitude. Now, that might be, for those who are married, that might be in the form of putting together a gratitude list of what am I grateful for about my wife, my spouse. And the more I do that, the more I actually delineate the things that I'm grateful for, the more I start to see those things, and it enhances it, right?
Practice,
it may be, again, for people who are in ministry, you might need to do a gratitude list. What are you grateful for your role, for the church that you serve, the mission that you serve, the group that you're a missionary to? What is it? What can you be grateful for? And the more you the more you fill out that list, like I always start, I go, okay, guys, go and write 10 things that you're grateful for. And then they come back with 8 and they're like, man, this was really, really hard. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to still fill in those 2, and I get them to 10. And they go, okay, finally I got to 10. I go, okay, great. Now next week I want you to do 10 more. I'm like, 10 more? How am I going to do 10 more? Right. And then the next week, 10 more. And the next week, 10 more.
Right.
Why? Because the more I am identifying the things I'm grateful for, the less I'm looking at the things I'm not satisfied with and then trying to find the alternative. Right.
Right. And that's also addressing our character. When we look at our character from a negative point of view, we're gonna invoke negative character traits, and we're gonna be living that. So the more that we look at like you said, so start with a gratitude list. Well, where do I go from there? And so it's building those character traits that we want, that we're called to. What, we always go back to, what kind of man is God calling me to be today? Is it one that lives in secret and lives in the dark, or one that lives in the light and becomes a freer voice and can be used to greater capacity, not being weighed down by all of that stuff that we've kept in the past? So I like the gratitude list. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're in full-time ministry and you are struggling in your sexual integrity, first thing I want you to do is stop. Easier said than done. I want you to stop. I want you to stop continuing down that path of, walking as close as you can to the adulteress's household, whether that's electronic or physical. And I want you to begin to look at what it is that, what is I need? I need that community. Actually, you know what? Even before that, let me take a step back. We talked in last week's episode, we talked about repentance. What brings about repentance? So if you're kind of one of those guys who's still stuck, you feel, you're caught in sin, not like caught red-handed, but you're stuck and you can't get out. Go back and listen to the episode on repentance. And then from there, we need to make some action steps. I need to have community. I can't do this alone. So who's in my community? If I don't have a community, man, call right now. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and sign up for Every Man's Battle, because you need that. You need that community. You're not going to do this on your own. You weren't intended to do this on your own. When Jesus sent out the disciples, how did he do it? He sent them out 2 by 2, not by themselves. Why? Because there's power in community. You need community. Okay, so sign up for an Every Man's Battle intensive, and commit to actually signing up for the ongoing aftercare of the Sustained Victory, because if you don't have that in your location, you're going to need it. It can't just be this 48-hour weekend intensive and then that's going to fix everything and I'll be fine after that. No, you have to have the ongoing community. So plan for that. Join a 12-step group. Pray. Ask God to help you change your character so that you are filled with gratitude, right? That's a command actually, right? Pray always, pray without ceasing, be grateful always. It doesn't say be grateful if you've got a lot to be grateful for, right? Be grateful always. Okay. So I have to turn my attention to the things that I should be grateful for.
Yes.
I have to fix my eyes, fix my gaze on those things. So if you haven't already, start your gratitude list. What am I grateful for? Let me build on that list. Let me add to it so that I'm enhancing my love for my wife, my love for my role in ministry, and not chasing after, I'm going to go get my wound, put the little Band-Aid on my wound by spending time with the mistress, spending time with the pages of the magazines or the electronic, images that I'm watching. But I have to make that shift. All right. So final thought. You are in full-time ministry. You have guys who come to you saying, hey, I'm struggling with XYZ in terms of their sexual integrity. And you want to help them. But you go, well, what am I going to say to them? I don't know what to do. I'm struggling myself, right? Okay, so this would be kind of like what they say when you get on the airplane and they say, hey, we lose cabin pressure. First, put on your own mask, then help those you're traveling with. So if you haven't taken this seriously and sought out help for yourself, it's going to be very hard for you to offer authentic help, care for those in your congregation who are similarly struggling. And so it's that important that you take the time to get the help that you need, get the support that you need. Doug, final thought?
Please, please, please don't pass up the opportunity to put your own mask on first. There's a safety element, there's a protection element, there's a confidentiality element. There's a built-in community element of the Everyman's Battle Intensive. So it's not the end of the journey, it's the start of the journey. And we all, because we're all tempted, and we will be until we see Jesus or we're 6 feet under, we're all tempted. And so we all need the support of brothers who get us, not just any brothers. I mean, that's fine. I'm not, being disrespectful to them, but we also need brothers who really love us and get us, and we get them, and we can walk with them and depend on them just like they can walk with us and depend on us.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Love it, man. So good to be with you, Doug. Next week, we're going to be talking about fighting the battle when you're single. So just like today, we unpack what's different about fighting the battle when you're in ministry. Next week, we're going to talk about what does it mean to fight the battle when you're single. We hope that you'll join us again. Thank you for listening. God bless.
Thanks for listening. This podcast is just one of the many ways we can encourage and help you. If you're looking for more help, visit us at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Please remember to review, like, and share the podcast as it helps others find us. If you have a comment about this podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at embpodcast@newlife.com. See you next week.